You voted for Trump. What now? You voted for him. What now?
Now, the Trump administration is allowing ICE and Border Patrol to go into sensitive areas like schools, churches, and hospitals to arrest migrants.
We are targeting very violent threats to our community.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
One thing we need to stop acting oblivious to is, don't forget what Donald Trump said. As soon as he gets into office, he's sending all the illegal immigrants back. Not immigrants, but illegal immigrants. Migrant is someone who travels within the same country. So we need to stop calling them migrants. They are immigrants. They are coming from a foreign country. They are not within. We are about to sit back and react to a mass deportation. When I tell you that these next 4 years, they're going to be sending a lot of people back. Let's not forget, a lot of these people just entered here only because the Biden administration turned the other way. And now, so many people are about to learn the hard way. And of course, they're going to blame Trump. But at the end of the day, you only could blame Biden. He is the one who let them in, knowing that they were not going to be able to stay here that long. They were set up for failure, if you ask me. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. If you like reactions like this, consider hitting that like button. Definitely subscribe to the channel and also hit the notification bell. They're not playing, they're going everywhere. They're going to employment, schools, churches. Oh, that catch and release stops now. Unfortunately, it's messed up for those who really came here trying to do good. But you had a lot of bad apples.
Of the raid with the federal agents loading everything up. This is all evidence from the immigration office, law office, Melina Flynn. Again, it's Providence, Rhode Island. Major FBI raid, Homeland Security, on an immigration law firm involving Homeland Security, FBI. Providence police have blocked off this street. They've been here since 9 o'clock this morning.
So I just saw a TikTok that the ICE raids are targeting the farm workers in Bakersfield, California. And if you don't know how to grow your own food, you need to get on Gardening Talk, because we're going to run out of food. Produce is going to be really expensive, but the bottom line is that the crops are going to literally rot on the vine. Because I just saw in another TikTok made by Hear Me Out on This, she's great, political commentary, 75% of the farm workers are not going to work because they're afraid to get picked up, and they're not sending their children to school because ICE can now grab their children, and then they'll have to go get their children, and that will cause them to be arrested.
A U.S. citizen and military veteran was detained and held by ICE today. You heard that right. A U.S. citizen served in the military in this country was detained and held by ICE because he wasn't carrying any documentation that proves that he is a U.S. citizen.
Now, I don't know how this worked. I don't know if they went to his resident and maybe he looked like the description of somebody, but I highly doubt that they're just running around and only locking up people who look Spanish or something like that. I can't believe that right there. You can't sell that to me. I need to hear the full story on this right here before I just go ahead with my emotions and get upset. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's going to be errors. I'm not saying there won't be errors. However, the way she's coming across is like they just driving around and say, hey, look, he look Mexican. Let's go get him. I don't know. I don't think that's how it's working.
Took place in Newark, New Jersey, and the mayor issued a statement confirming that individual's Fourth Amendment rights were violated. He also confirmed that ICE is stopping undocumented immigrants as well as citizens, residents, everybody. And I made a video a few days ago talking about how ICE agents will racially profile, and this exact situation can happen to you, whether you are a U.S. citizen, whether you're a resident. They can stop and question anybody. They can knock on your door. Now they can go to the schools and talk to your children. They can go to the hospital. I also saw videos of other creators say you don't have to carry your U.S. passport or your resident card or your birth certificate. You just have to tell them that you are a U.S. citizen and they will leave you alone. Well, friends, I've been telling you guys, make sure that you take pictures of your U.S. passport or your resident card or your visa or your birth certificate, and you carry a picture on your phone. That way you're not carrying sensitive documentation around, then you run into the possibility of losing it. Carry pictures of your document for you, for your spouse, for your children. They can stop you, question you, detain you, hold you, and take you to a facility until proof or documentation of your status is presented to them.
We've been preparing for emergencies like
That's
this
scary.
one for the last 8 years since Trump first came into the scene.
Rendon says news of potential increases in Chicago ICE raids is not a surprise, but it has doubled their efforts in educating people on what their rights are if they face detention or deportation. The collaborative works to connect people in the immigrant community with jobs and assist with questions regarding documentation. With new concerns of raids, Frausto says they will be hiring a new position to help support community members faced with the detention or deportation of family.
That person is going to be answering, helping people to identify where the relatives are detained, what's going to be the process, what are the next steps.
Both nonprofit organizers say those they help have become more fearful of the
This entire topic is very tricky and touchy. It's a very touchy situation. I'm gonna explain why. On one hand, you have migrants, or should I say, on one hand, you have immigrants committing crimes, and I'm talking about real crimes, not jumping the turnstile, jaywalking, or petty theft. I'm talking about real crimes where people are being unalived. Of course, you're gonna have those people who are not gonna like them. They're gonna want them to get deported, sent back, eradicated. On the other hand, you have people who are business owners. They're gonna look at it like cheap labor. We need these people. I need them because I need my profit margin to be up here. Then you have the people who just are in between, and they only like to, for some weird reason, only like to advocate for either LBGT community, or when the police does something to a black person, or animals and immigrants. U.S. citizens, when the same things happen to them, where's the uproar at? You let me know.
unknown.
ICE can now raid classrooms, and as a high school teacher, I just want to make one thing clear. If someone tries to come in my classroom and my students, one of us isn't leaving the classroom. Play with me.
So ICE is showing up
Student
at schools
leaving.
and churches. I am in the Lexington area of Kentucky. I do not have my son for the next 2 days. If you need an auntie to pick up or drop off, please message me. And I'll be taking my microphone to churches on Sunday in the parking lot. If somebody could just let me know the pronunciation, I guess I'll Google it. Magira and whatever. Like, I'm going to F your plans up if I can. I have white privilege and I'm going to use it.
You voted for Trump,
Okay.
what now? You voted for him, what now?
What you mean?
You don't like what you're seeing? You don't like that he's not honoring the promises that he made? Now what? Now what?
Okay, the Spanish
What can you do
Roseanne.
now? Is there anything you could do now? Well, you know what you can do for a while? You can eat shit for a while.
Hey,
That's what
yo.
you can do.
Why are you so
And then
mad?
hopefully after you're done eating shit, you apologize to any family member or people you run into for voting against their rights, for voting against them, for not having compassion and empathy for other human beings that are your neighbors, that are working to put food on your table. They're doing all these ICE raids. People at work, who's behind them to take that job? Who's behind them to pick that field? Who is going to replace that? You guys were bitching and crying about eggs and prices of gas.
Not
The eggs
really.
are still the same. The prices
The
of gas are
news
still the same.
perpetuated that.
And when Trump was president, gas was low because nobody was driving, because he caused a very bad pandemic by not handling it correctly, by spreading misinformation.
Like you're doing?
You voted for Trump. What now? What now? What can you do?
Sit back and relax.
I hope that you can be an ally and a friend to somebody If you see something, try and help, intervene. If you finally woke the fuck up and you know that you made a mistake by voting for Trump, what now? What can you do? You can do the walk. You can do the walk.
What
you can
walk
be a
is
shield
this?
for somebody. You can be somebody's voice. You see somebody be racially profiled, you can say something. You see something in the workplace where people are talking shit in the break room about another culture or race, you can stand up and say something. That's what you can do.
The operation begins before dawn. Agents with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, who asked us to conceal their identities, gearing up at a parking lot in suburban Boston. We're along for the ride.
We don't do large-scale roundups. Every individual that's here today has come to our attention because they've been arrested by a local municipality for a felony or an egregious crime.
So after several hours of waiting, they've just found one of their targets and we're on the move. When we arrive, we see an immigrant from the Dominican Republic who ICE says is here illegally and is a convicted sex offender. He tells me he came to the U.S. for a better way of life and denies the charges against him. He's led away in handcuffs. ICE agents had been watching this particular subject for at least a week. On this day, it took about 16 ICE agents to arrest 5 immigrants who ICE says are undocumented, have criminal records, and had been released on bail by local jurisdictions instead of being turned over to ICE, each requiring 40 to 80 hours of surveillance beforehand.
So do you not see the problem? It seems like the problem is within the government. It seems like they're not honoring their laws. Now you have people looking at things the wrong way. This is the reason why you have people looking at the situation in the wrong lens and they're getting all emotional. They're looking at it like it's happening out of thin air, out of nowhere. But as you can see, there's flaws in the system and they're catching and releasing them. It makes no sense when they could just do it 1, 2, 3, bing, 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 send them right back. You over here with criminal backgrounds that doesn't suit a regular civilian. How you coming here for a better way of life, but you're doing heinous crimes? It doesn't make any sense.
Do you have enough resources to do this?
No, we don't. And that's one of the problems that, when jurisdictions don't cooperate with us, we have to go out into the community, which puts our officers at risk.
But these are the waning days of the Biden administration. President-elect Trump won, pledging to do much more, including mass deportations. And after Democratic city and state officials vowed to block Trump's deportation plan, incoming border czar Tom Homan is doubling down with this warning.
If they cross our line and knowingly harbor and conceal illegal alien, well, I'm going to seek prosecution.
I am concerned of what a mass deportation would look like for them.
Attorney Valerie Napier is an immigrant advocate who says calls to her clinic have tripled since Trump was reelected.
What do you say to those people who voted for Donald Trump and wanted a crackdown in the immigration system?
Not everyone is a criminal.
We pressed ICE about its current mission. There are some who fear that ICE will also arrest immigrants that are here that may not have criminal records. To that, you say
try that in another country.
What we are focused on is obviously public safety, national security threats. But then there are those too that have exhausted all legal means. In the end, they've been ordered legally removed from the United States, and we'll go ahead and effect those removal orders.
2 U.S. officials tell NBC News that even before any mass deportation plans, ICE is already facing a budget shortfall of $230 million.
Are you aware that today, under Donald Trump's guidance, the U.S. government's official policy is that immigration raids are fair game on school campuses? One of my followers tagged me in a comment on a video from a teacher that spent her professional development time not learning how to be a better educator, but how to communicate with her fellow teachers and her administration if ICE knocks on the door. What to do if one of their students goes missing in one of these raids.
My thing is this: if they're coming to get you, they're coming to get you. It doesn't matter if it's at the grocery store, if it's at the bank, if it's in the school, or at your job. If they want to get rid of you and you don't belong here, they're coming to get you. There's no right place and there's no right time. We need to stop it with this right here. Again, I'm sorry for the unfortunate ones. However, there's a process and there's a procedure on how to become a citizen. And if you don't go that route, you're going to go through these situations right here.
The abject hatred and malice that has to be present in the heart of a man to instill that type of terror, not just in our educators, but in migrant families across this country. to threaten them with the idea that if you drop your kid off at school and you dare try to get them an education in this country, when you go to pick them up later, we're going to pick you up instead. The educators that are already being asked to be human shields and door blockers when AR-15s roam the halls are now being asked to guard against ICE agents.
How are they asked to be human
You say
shields?
that our children are subject to this threat of liberal wokeness and trans kids as if they are the ones rounding them up in paddy wagons and detaining them who knows where?
Federal agents spotted entering homes in East Boston on Wednesday. Our cameras capturing one man being taken into custody.
É muito triste.
Neighbors and the heavily migrant community surprised and saddened to see it go down. The operations happening amid heightened alert for mass roundups and deportations promised by President Donald Trump. Immigration and Customs Enforcement announcing Tuesday it was rescinding a Biden-era policy of avoiding so-called sensitive areas, including schools and churches.
It is horrifying, and that is the point.
Hannah Hafter at Episcopal City Mission says the network of churches sheltering families of mixed immigration statuses makes them a target for ICE and won't be complying with them unless they have a signed warrant.
Just because they aren't respecting churches as safe spaces doesn't mean that the people in the churches are not going to treat it as a safe and secure space.
Worcester Public Schools is similarly not cooperating with ICE without proper authority, reassuring families, saying in a letter, principals and school-based staff have received detailed guidance on protecting students' rights, responding to ICE interactions, and supporting students whose parents or guardians may be detained during the school day. Meanwhile, the school's transportation department ordered its bus drivers not to let any students off the bus if they see any agents at bus stops.
Those are the places that people who have criminal intents go to hide.
Former Bristol County Sheriff and Massachusetts Trump campaign chair Thomas Hodgson says he will be helping ICE to make it easier for the raids to happen.
We don't need any groups or organizations attempting to create this environment where it makes it harder for law enforcement to keep our communities safe.
Well, you let me know in the comments. Do you agree or do you disagree with the situation? Are you for it or are you against it? Do you want them to get deported or do you want them all to stay here regardless of a criminal background? Or are you judging it based on what kind of crimes they committed? You let me know. I just think it's a messed up situation overall. You were duped. You were promised something by someone who knew he wasn't going to keep that promise, or an administration who knew they weren't going to keep that promise. And you guys knowing at hand that it was a possibility that Trump was going to win, and people still flocked over to the U.S. Remember, let's not forget, they accepted them with open arms. We even had sanctuary cities. Could you believe that? They call them safe spaces. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's not forget, we have U.S. citizens who don't even get this kind of look. No one cares about the average U.S. citizen, the average homeless person. No one cares, right? But when it comes to an immigrant, an animal, or the LGBT community, or anything that's racial, oh yes, it makes the headlines. Big time, big time. They can sell that. With that being said, go in the comments, run it up, flood it up. Let me know your thoughts on this right here. Don't forget, if you made it to this part of the video, consider hitting that like button. Definitely subscribe to the channel and also hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next one.